But I don't want people getting stuck trying to reinvent the wheel. The bulk of what's in the Torah is accurately translated. But anything that seems sort of like unbecoming, it's funny, to believe in angels is really to be a polytheist.
As a matter of fact, all these notions of Keruvim, Serfanim, Ofanim, these are not angels from a Torah perspective. Malach just means a messenger, not some sort of Greek or Hellenized angelic being, which is how people view it today. And it's not really their fault. This is how rabbis have been translating it for centuries, but because of a Hellenized influence in the Jewish world. It says that Yaakov sent messengers to Esav. He sent malachim, just actual messengers. And Rashi, of course, steps in. He says, no, it's mamash malachim, like actual angels. I mean, come on. That is not what the Torah states. And I understand that people even use the Rambam, who in Hilchos Yesud Torah classified different types of angels. But then he writes in Mor Nevuchim that what do angels actually control? He says, Kohot HaTeva, the forces of nature. So it's not really the same type of angel that other mystics claim to believe in. So it's not really fair to bring the Rambam into this argument. But for all intents and purposes, Malach in Torah just means messenger, i.e. a messenger that may look human, but is really some sort of representation of God.
This is why I always said that to believe in some form of Satan, and I know Toby Singer pushes it like Jews don't believe in the Christian type of Satan, but he's lying. Jews do believe in that. Now, Tanakh may present it differently in the book of Job, that yes, I mean, Satan works for God and snap, but this is not the way it appears in the Talmud. It seems like the way Satan appears in rabbinic literature is identical to the way that Satan appears in the New Testament. But it seems like these guys have an agenda. They sort of use these arguments just to kind of pull people away from Christianity. But once a person starts to study Kabbalah more, they realize, what do you mean? There's demons in Kabbalah. There's, what's the difference? Yeah. So,
I've often thought, here we go with this statement. I've often thought that if, there were a Satan, he would play the role of Jesus. He would definitely create a religion that was an offshoot of Judaism that would, say don't keep the commandments or something. Someone else did it for you. It seems very satanic, honestly. And I try not to have like hard feelings towards Christians, but the whole idea of it.
Look, my point was that dualism is a form of polytheism. If you believe that there's something that's metaphysical that has a will of its own, then you already created a God for yourself. I'm not saying you're worshiping this God.
No, God claims in Psalms and I think Isaiah, he is the creator of all good and evil. Like he takes credit for all of it. There's only one God.
Let's analyze that verse in Isaiah. I've always had a big problem with people saying that God creates evil. And this is one verse for sure. The Torah doesn't mention this, but with as much attention and severity that the book of Isaiah deserves, I think I should take the time to speak about this a bit. Look, God does not create evil. Evil is the result of not doing good. I think everyone understands that. Evil doesn't exist like a separate entity. Now, there is something that God does create, and this does appear in the Torah. God does create unrest, harm on the national level. That's part of the formula. When Israel stops keeping Torah, God first sends them prophetic intervention. If they don't heed the instructions of that prophet, he then exiles them. He brings calamity on them. That's what Ra means, or at least one interpretation for the word Ra. It means calamity. Now, the bigger question is, how do you know when to use the word Ra for evil and when to use the word Ra for calamity or distress? And I welcome everyone to do a concordance check on the word Ra. It means calamity, it means distress just as much as it means evil. It also means to be unsatisfied with something, to be hurt by something. But this people fall short with because they're relying on some translation. So look, I have it pulled up here. Isaiah 45 verse 7. Yotzer or uvore choshech. I form light and I create darkness. And then he says, Oseh shalom. I make peace. Uvore ra. And I create, again, how are we going to translate this? Well, we see that the first one contrasts darkness with light. Now the next phrase should also contrast itself. Oseh shalom, I make peace, and I create what? Not evil, but calamity. And that's really the only way this verse makes sense. So, This shows that God does not create evil. Evil is the result of not doing good.
And there's someone that I just responded to last week that on Facebook, he's like, thank you, God, for the coronavirus. You have to thank God for everything because everything comes from God. It's not like your son dies, God forbid, and God caused that. To believe that there are metaphysical beings out there that could converse and act on their own, that is to be a polytheist. That is to believe in more than one God. I'm not saying you're worshiping more than one God. To be a polytheist doesn't mean you're worshiping those gods, but you're acknowledging the existence of other gods. Polytheism means you believe in more than one. So like if you believe in an evil, heck, in Judaism we have the ayin hara. There's so many things we say, kanai nahara, all this stuff to push away the evil eye. It's because you believe it's some sort of evil entity, right? This is all polytheism. But the next time someone makes fun of a Christian for believing in dualistic powers or in whatever, if you acknowledge that there's an evil entity out there or even angels, this is why the Rambam had to step in and say, yeah, there's angels, but they don't have free will and this and that. Of course, the Torah doesn't say that. The Torah doesn't say the angels don't have free will or these messengers don't have free will. The philosophical rabbis developed that. But all these ideas give birth to other religions and other Kabbalistic ideas that hurt Judaism from a philosophical perspective. This is why it makes people create so much literature to try to argue these things away. No, the notion of angels are problematic. Okay. If God is one, if God needs nothing, then why does God need these beings around him? Now, if you understand there are extensions of him, I think that makes a little more sense. That every time you see a messenger in Torah or even the messenger of the Lord, it seems that many times it calls him Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. It seems that this is an extension of God. God is allowing someone who looks human to appear in front of you, but this is a manifestation of God. That makes more sense than there's Michael and there's Gabriel and there's Raphael and they're sort of just all hanging out in the green room.